when you were allocated to that particular programme, it was a good thing to be allocated.
Oh, yes.
You knew it was going to be an enjoyable day's work.
Yes.
Because another day you might just get some interview show where someone talked to camera and you couldn't remember anything about it 5 minutes later. There were 2 studios on the 4th and a half floor of Television Centre, behind the lifts, hiding, which were part of the presentation department.
The weather came from Pres A and Trails, and various programmes, including whistle tests, came from Pres B.
The original idea with the presentation studios was that because everything was live, you had to have a proper little studio to do the bits between programmes. So you had a tiny studio with 3 cameras, not much in the way of sets, and that's how you went through the evening.
Now, the function of the studio was not for full-scale song and dance television programmes.
Initially the studio had small black and white cameras, but when the colour cameras came along, they were rejects from downstairs. Nobody wanted these monsters downstairs, so they were shoved upstairs where they didn't think they were going to move too much.
By the time you'd got a camera and someone standing behind it operating the camera, the lens would be at least 6 foot from the wall, even if you were pressed against the wall. And you never got the main shot, which is the frontal 3 shot or 5 shot or whatever it was, to establish your geography.
Well, I heard a rumour that they once opened the doors.
We opened the studio doors, which were quite big doors, and pulled a camera outside, which gave us another 10 feet possibly, and allowed us to get the shots we wanted. So you needed some geography to see where everyone was, just occasionally. We only did it once or twice, and it was a bit scary to do live.
Certainly up in Pres, a whole different world existed from downstairs. A more relaxed world, a more easygoing world, where you could do things and people wouldn't get wound up about it. Like drag the camera out into the corridor and no one would go, oh, whatever.
Because there were no senior people there, were there?
No.
That's brilliant. From the techie point of view, the valve amplifiers always sounded lovely when they were just on the edge of overload. So that's how the band wanted them, which was great if you were at a big venue, but not so good in Pres B.
When I was doing this programme with Johnny Winter, there was a sound pressure wave that went
Yes.
across the studio, and it literally hit you. You know, it was absolutely, it didn't hurt, but it was
Yeah, I remember you could feel it in your stomach, and it's the only show I remember where you felt it, not through your ears, but through your stomach.
So high was the noise level on the Johnny Winter programme that it was going through the soundproof walls of Pres B, through the soundproof walls of the adjacent studio, and was being picked up by the weatherman's microphone. Now, give the BBC its due, it eventually realised that this could lead to hearing problems. So it introduced this system called Ames Milling.
The idea was that it would give the musicians a warning that they were playing too loud and a few seconds to pull back, and then it would cut out.
And as long as the system was indicating green, then everybody was going to be safe. When it really was over the top, then the red light would come on. What happened was the groups realised that they could tickle the red. So there is an argument that says we ended up having even higher noise levels.
Till it didn't quite go off.
Because the group, absolutely.
Yeah. Basically, the pickup tubes in the cameras were not unlike the valves that were used in all sorts of radios and things at the time. And if the sound was loud enough, they could vibrate, and you get little sort of, mainly sort of red and green bands across the picture. If you see that, you can guess it was pretty loud where that camera was, yes.
You couldn't hear the talkback. Talkback is where the cameraman is listening to the director, and the director's telling them what to do.
Trying to hear the talkback.
Impossible.
In those situations, that was difficult.
Yeah.
Obviously, camera crews needed to be told what was going on, otherwise you didn't know what was going on and you'd have to invent something. And when it got really, really loud, that's sort of what you did really, wasn't it? The light came on, couldn't hear what anyone was saying. I'll zoom in, I think. So, you know, that's all you could do really. I hope for the best.
Andrew, I think a lot of the, the rock and roll people, musicians in those days, were probably deaf anyway, from years of just having fantastically high noise levels.
As are we now.
As always.
I always thought that if we'd known it in history, we would have concentrated harder, really, wouldn't we?